Hello and welcome to the BinarX Student Payload Development Program Week 50. The big 5-0, we're almost at the end of our 2-year program. So the stuff we're going to go over today is actually going to take you through to the end of this term. We are going to take the ground stations and Raspberry Pis that you set up last week, and we are going to create a SatNOGs account, which is that global community of amateur satellite observation stations. We're going to set one up for all of us. And then we are going to try and observe some satellites, starting with the International Space Station. So won't get it all done in the 1 hour, but if you just pause, get as far as you get today, and then over the next few weeks, you can leave things set up and keep progressing. So grab your box. If you haven't already got your Raspberry Pi and everything set up with the rabbit ears from last week, then go ahead and grab that, get that set back up. You can just go back to last week's video if you forget how everything goes together. And then this week you're going to need your folding handheld Yagi antenna, the little whip cable. So this is a male UHF to SMA. You're going to grab your Noelec Lana, low noise amplifier, or LNA. Now, important safety thing for the SDR, don't ever turn the bias T power on your software-defined radio unless you have this connected and everything is all secure. A couple of other little safety tips is, since we are going to be making these observations outdoors or semi-outdoors, don't operate your ground station in inclement weather, especially storms, electrical storms, and even getting the equipment wet. Just exercise a degree of caution like you would with anything. Electricity and water don't mix, and we certainly don't want you out there putting yourself into any dangerous situations. And also, as you do your satellite observations and they go overhead, sometimes they'll go kind of past the sun. Obviously, don't stare at the sun. You probably don't need to tell you that, but it's not good for your cameras either. So when we're using our cameras or our phones or tablets or whatever it is to track the satellites, you sort of just kind of guess where it is if it's going past the sun. That'll do a good enough job, but we'll get stuck into it. So you've got those cables. You should have a longer, sort of about a 2-meter male-to-male SMA cable. And you're going to connect these up to your software-defined radio, which should be plugged into your Raspberry Pi. So we'll go ahead and connect these up. So from your software-defined radio, grab your long cable, your 2-meter one, and just securely screw that in. Now, you don't need to put your amplifier in if you don't want to, but the cables that I've supplied you are male and male because of the connectors on the low noise amplifier are female. So you would just need to get an adapter to couple those two together if you didn't want to include your low noise amplifier. So you don't have to. We'll put it on today just because then it doesn't require any extra parts. Now there's an output and an input on your low noise amplifier. The input is actually what you want to connect the antenna to, and the output that has the little LED to say if the power is on, the bias T power, or if it's just powered at all, that should face you. So if we connect that to the end of your cable, you can do that like that. And then you take the little cable that's got the UHF on one end, connect that up, and just make sure you locate it. And if it feels like it's cross-threaded or jamming, just try again. You want to be gentle. And then this goes onto there. And again, you just press it on and screw it on. And that's our setup to start chasing satellites from a hardware perspective. And then that plugs into your Raspberry Pi. In the kits, I have also included these little weather boxes, if you like, and it's got little glands on it to try and keep water from coming in. If you unscrew those, then I won't do the full thing, but what you can do is you can feed your cables in. Oh, sorry. So you've got that bit on there. Feed the cable in through it, and then as you screw this on, it'll tighten up and kind of hold it in place and prevent water. It's not waterproof, but it will be just a little bit more weather resistant. And if you want to have your low noise amplifier outdoors, it'll kind of protect it from dust and moisture. And then you can screw that on. That is optional. The lovely team at Churchlands who piloted one of the kits for me last year, they find that they didn't like this particular weather box, and they ended up just taping their low noise amplifier to their antenna handle. Whatever works for you is fine. So I'm going to hop on over to my screen share now, and we will start the process of setting up the SatNOGs account and configuring your ground station on the SatNOGs network. Okay, so I am going to sign in to my Raspberry Pi remotely. I'm not going to show you how to set this up. This is in the notes, and we can do it later. For now, we'll just stay hooked up with your keyboard and mouse and monitor. But I've got it set up, and your teachers may have already, if they've had a chance, set up a Raspberry Pi Connect account. You just need an email address to link it to. I've used this one, so if I sign in, it's going to show me all the ones that I've set up. So there's going to be a few on mine. Ultimately, if you set this up, it'll only have one, or should only have one, or however many you do set up. So just give that a moment to sign in. There we go. So this is the one that I have set up as a test, and you can see that it's online, and I'm going to connect via screen sharing. You can use remote shell too, but that will just take you to the little command line. So if we click on that, it's going to try and connect. Let's make it full screen. And it has to be on your local network if you're going to remotely connect into it the first time, but actually ignore me. So here we go. All right, so we're in the Raspberry Pi. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, you can, if you want, test using your software-defined radio and SDR++, just to make sure everything's hooked up and working under other. But today we're going to actually focus on setting up a SatNOGs account and setting up your SatNOGs ground station. So we'll need the browser and we'll need the terminal. So we'll start in the browser and open that up. It's a little bit slow. And you're going to type in network.satnogs.org and hit enter. And SatNOGs is that global community of amateur satellite observation enthusiasts, and they're all around the world. And there's lots of dots. You'll see them load up in a second. All of those green and orange dots represent ground stations. If they're green, they're up and running. If they're orange, they're in testing mode. And testing mode is where we are going to start today until we know we're up and running. So going over to Australia. It's a bit laggy, so it's jumping on me. You can see there's not that many around Australia, not that many ground stations. So if we zoom in to Perth, I'm just using the scroll wheel on my mouse here, we can see a couple. We can see Churchland Senior High School, Yagi is up and running, which is pretty cool. That is, shout out to Churchland Senior High School. And then we've got Waterside Wilson, we've got Gooseberry Hill, which is up and running, and the Binar ground station. That's the one that we actually, we have one set up at Curtin here at the Binar Space Program on our roof as well. So what you'll do is you will go in and you will sign up, log in, and you'll just need an email address that you can all access, or if your teachers set one up, whatever it is that you're using, just make sure that you can access it, because that's going to be the one that's linked to your SatNOGs ground station forever and ever and ever, and you don't want to lose that if you're 11 or 12 and you move schools. So see if you can get like a common, even if you just set up a dummy email address. I'm not sure how that works in your school, but sign that. So go to sign up, and we'll just say, your email at gmail.com. I've set one up under my BinarX external little Gmail account that I have set up, but you'll just pick up whatever your username, and then it'll make you set a good password. So you just make sure you note these down and make sure that's all good. So then sign up. And what it's going to do is it's going to send a confirmation email to whatever email you have provided, and you'll have to go and you'll have to confirm that. So here we go. Here you can see it sent us a verification email. So you just verify and then click on verify your account, and it will say that it's all verified and good to go. So that's what you need to do as well to finish setting up your account. Now we'll head back over and we'll set up a ground station and configure it. Okay, so I've logged into the one I've created as BinarX test. So you'll have this here, you'll have whatever username you've set up. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a ground station. Oh, my internet is being a little bit dodgy today. And that's the other thing, you do need to have that stable, reliable internet connection now for your Raspberry Pi, whether it's Wi-Fi or Ethernet, because you need to have your ground station on and connected to a stable internet connection before a satellite observation, during a satellite observation, and for a few minutes after the satellite observation, because what's going to happen is the SatNOGs network in the cloud is going to communicate with your ground station and send commands to it, and then wait for the data to get back to the database, and then it will generate the page for the observation. So general info, you can put in your name and description. So why don't we call it BinarX GS test? That's fine. And actually, let's call it mobile, because maybe we'll use this one for other schools. So you can put in whatever direction or description you like. So we won't worry about the configuration right now. We're going to set that up. New antenna. So we're going to put in the cross Yagi. So that's the Yagi that you have, that you hopefully have unfolded by now, because I've supplied it to you folded. It's a UHF antenna, which is ultra high frequency. And these particular antennas are sensitive. They're best, I believe it's 420 to 470 for the ones you have. But you can put in, if you think it's going to pick up more ranges, whatever you put in here, you'll only be able to schedule observations for satellites that are transmitting within these frequencies. So if you go and you add different antennas to your ground station later on down the track, you can actually add VHF and other things. But that's, don't worry about that today, but you can add more things, more antennas. I won't worry about that. It says, are we in testing mode? Yeah, and we want to start in testing mode. And we will say submit. You can upload an image of your ground station if you like, your setup. Don't put any personal information on there, but if you wanted to take a picture of the setup and put it there, that would be very cool as well. So we'll submit. Station is offline. Okay, so ground station 4351 is now the number of this ground station. So we're going to need that. Put that over here. Oh, it's a bit laggy. And the other thing you're going to need is the API key. So an API is API token. So that, if you click on to there. Sorry, go back to our dashboard. I'm not sure why it is not saying API key here on this sort of weird little light blue one. It's just an idiosyncrasy with, I guess, the Linux setup. But if you click on that, you'll get this a window pop up with a big long string of numbers. You don't want to share that with anyone, sort of broadly post it on anything, because then people would be able to set up the ground station with that same API token, and it might cause conflicts or, and muck up your observations. So I won't click on that for now, but you will click on that, and you can make a note of it somewhere. We can copy and paste when we're working totally within the Raspberry Pi, so that's probably one you want to copy and paste. And we're going to need your station ID. So then the next thing we want to do is click on the terminal. We can put this here and here. And we've set up most of this preloaded, because it can be really fiddly getting all of the drivers installed. So if you had a totally fresh Raspberry Pi with nothing, you could go onto the SatNOGs wiki, and there are instructions on how to set this up from scratch. I'll put a link to that on the lesson plan. But they have had an update recently, and it was quite tricky to get it all working. So in the interest of the time that we have, we've preloaded most of it on there. So the first thing you're going to want to do before we go into the SatNOG setup is go RTL_test. And it sees our RTL USB SDR, which is good. And then it's saying supported gain values. So the gain values, you can either enter it as 0 for today, or like not change it, or you can pick one, I'd say in the lower ranges. You don't want to go too high on the gain. But these are the optimized gain values to plug in the next step. So if we just pick one, like I'll pick 12.5 maybe, and I'm going to put that in. So write that down somewhere, or pick a different one if you want, whatever you like, and then hit Control-C, and that will stop the test. Okay, so that's fine. So the RTL is working, and then we're going to go sudo satnogs-setup. And this can take a little bit of time, especially if you haven't opened your Pi in a while. It's going to try and pull the latest version of SatNOGs. And if it's needing an update, it'll go through all that and take a little bit longer. So first thing we want to do is, you're going to use your arrow keys to navigate. And I'm not very good at it today. And we're going to start with basic. API token is that API token that's in here when you click on that. I won't put it in now on screen. I'll pause and put that back in, but you would put in, you know, whatever that big long number is. Let's see. And then hit save. And then SatNOG SOAPy RX, or RX for receive device. If you have an RTL SDR, like you all do, you put in driver equals RTL SDR and hit save. If you've got a different SDR for whatever reason, or you're watching this and you're not in the BinarX program, just head on over to that SatNOGs wiki, and there's instructions for other software-defined radios as well. Antenna, I'm going to put in RX if you're using an RTL SDR, but again, anything that's not related to an RTL SDR, head on over to SatNOGs wiki. Sample rate, for this one, it's going to be 2.048 lowercase e6. Save. And station elevation, if you know your elevation above sea level, you can put it in meters. I don't know what mine is. I'm just going to put in 3. I don't think that's as critical. Just station ID, that's whatever number you've got here. In this case, it's 4351. It needs all this information to be able to marry up to the online stuff and talk to each other. Station latitude and station longitude. Now, we all know our GPS coordinates, right? So don't put in anything other than, say, maybe a local park or something kind of nearby. You can put your school in, but don't put in, you know, your address or anything like that. So head on over to Google Maps. Google Maps. And we will type in Kings Park. And search. And if you right-click on Kings Park there, it gives you the latitude and longitude. So minus 31.9607. So we'll go back over to here and we will click on, or sorry, we'll get our mouse there. So define station latitude. The latitude is the first one, so negative 31.96076. Save. And define station longitude, 15.83214. And then when we finish setting up our station, that'll actually put our dot on the map. It should put it on Kings Park. And we can move it. You know, you can move it to somewhere else if you want, but that's where we're just going to put it as a generic example. So save, and then back, and we'll go into advanced configuration. And the other thing that we want to set is go down to radio. Scroll down to RF gain, and then if you wish to set a gain setting for your antenna, or for your radio rather, you can put that in there from that list of values that we saw when we did the RTL test. So I'll put in the 12.5, and then I'm just going to go back and exit, but I'm not going to exit just yet. I'm just going to pause for a minute. Okay, and I've put in my API key now into the basic configuration, and so we're going to say, oh, exit, click on there again, there we go, exit, and it's going to provision our SatNOG station. Now this can take a little bit of time, so we'll just be patient and wait for it to do its thing. Close that window. Okay, now you can see that it's making a little bit of progress, but yeah, it does take some time. Tick, tick, tick. There we go, and after a couple of minutes, it's finally finished. I have edited some of the big pauses, so if it takes a long time on yours, don't panic. It's just doing its thing. So now if we go on over here and we hit refresh, if we've done everything correctly, then this should turn to green, which is great. So that means it's fully online. If you wish, you can go back into your settings, click on there, click on edit, and you can put it into testing mode if you want. And then that way, any observations we make while we're figuring out our settings and if it's working will be marked as like testing mode. And I'm not sure if they go then against the actual stats for successful observations. I'm not sure, but presumably it would be good to not send bad observations just because we haven't finished setting up. Okay, so now we are ready to schedule our first pass. So if we are in our BinarX mobile ground station, you can go to future passes. Okay, so it's going to take a little while to calculate those future passes, so just give it some time. I'll edit out the waiting, but if on yours it is slow, just be patient. In reality, if you were remote accessing your Raspberry Pi like I am here, you probably wouldn't use the browser in the Raspberry Pi. You'd use it in a different tab. But this is the nice side-by-side and easy to show. And if you are if you do have your Raspberry Pi hooked up to a keyboard and mouse, you'll probably find it's faster than this. So you've got a list of future passes. This is why it's important that you have your GPS coordinates set up in your SatNOGs setup correctly that you set up before. So if you hop over here, network, you can actually see, if you go on your station, you can see that your little dot is where you intend it to be. In our case, remember we put it at Kings Park, so that is where it should be. So we've got all of these future passes, and each of these table lines is a potential observation that we can schedule with our ground station if we've set it up correctly. You've got the NORAD ID of the satellite, so every satellite has a unique numerical identifier assigned by NORAD at launch. You've got the name of the satellite that the satellite builders have given it. You've got a little bar beneath that shows proportionally how many successful in green versus unknown in orange versus no signal in red, so unsuccessful really. Bad observations were made by users on this network, so you want to look for lots of green because it's a good chance that the satellite's operational. You've got when the pass will start. Now you'll notice this time is different from the time on the clock of your Raspberry Pi. It's because these are in UTC or Coordinated Universal Time. You'll have to calculate that, add however many hours or subtract however many hours for your local time zone. If you're in Perth, you add 8 hours. So this right now, so you'd add 8 to that, and then you'd work out your local time. This is when it finishes. And then this is the polar plot. So directionally, the path that the satellite's going to take overhead. So you can see where it's rising, where it sets, and you want this number in the middle, this elevation angle, to be as high as possible when you're targeting a satellite observation, because it's going to mean it's like right overhead and you get the strongest signal and best chance of success. So we could do this one, but we're seeing that it's only had a few good observations, so we'll probably just keep going down. There we go. And we have to go 5 minutes in the future as well. So pick a time that's at least 5 minutes in the future. It won't let you schedule it. So we'll go to, let's see. This one, now that's a low pass. Keep going. This one looks pretty good. All right. Actually, I think, it is. So this one is an Australian satellite. That's so cool. All right, so you can read all about Spirit, which is up there now. Let's see if we can make an observation of it. All right, that's pretty cool. I think that's our South Australian cousin. Let's see, so close that up. And close that. And it's coming over, and so it's not a really high pass, so it doesn't matter because if we haven't set up our ground station outside yet, this is just going to be to see what happens. So we schedule that, click on schedule, and then transmitter. I think you can pick, sometimes they have different modes here you can pick, but we'll do that one. All right, and that's good, and we will hit schedule. And it's on our ground station. You can go through and schedule observations on other ground stations around the world if you like, and it'll come in under your account. You don't have to only use your own. So it's going to sit like this until waiting for the waterfall. So this is why we need a strong, stable internet connection now for our Raspberry Pis, because to schedule the observation, perform the observation, and then upload the observation, you need to have that stable internet connection before, during, and after the pass or the scheduled observation. Because what's going to happen is the SatNOGs network, because of that API token, they're able to talk to each other, your system and the SatNOGs network. The SatNOGs network will send a command to your ground station to start the observation. Your ground station will make the observation, and then it will upload it to the SatNOGs network and update this page. So we'll come back once the pass is finished after this time here, and we'll see what happens. Okay, now the pass is over. So if we refresh this, if you still have this open, you can just refresh the observation page, and we have our waterfall data. And through no fault of Spirit, there's nothing in the waterfall, but that's because I haven't put the antenna outside yet. We're just making sure that we can complete an observation at all. So that is a good sign. So we will actually rate it to say without signal, which you can do. So this is a blank waterfall. If you wanted to see what a successful observation looks like, because it can vary from satellite to satellite, you can just click on that and click on the successful observations, and it'll take you to a list of other successful observations that had been made by other users on the network. This one here is really good. I see this person up a lot, so that I think they're very active on the network. So let's click on that one and check out their observation. And there you can see that line, which would be the beacon from the satellite, which is pretty cool. So close that one. And we'll go back to our... Okay, so we'll go back to our dashboard. And you can see I've made some other observations on here, so this is why it says total in future. But you can click on recent observations and you'll get your list. Now I've made a whole bunch. I was playing around with it as well, making other observations. Again, unsuccessful. Some other Australian satellites in there as well. But the one I want you to target when you do your first one outside with your antenna, with your Yagi, is to try the ISS. So if you want to schedule an ISS observation, you click on your ground station and future passes, because you want the passes over your ground station. I mean, you can do it on other ground stations if you like, but this is testing your setup. So in this list, you don't have to scroll all the way down. Or just hit search. There we go. Sorry, it's not Control F. There's a little search button there. But ISS, because it's a very long page. That's SwissCube. You can do that one if you want to, but it's going to find all of our ISS ones. There we go. So that's not a bad pass, actually. And that's coming over, not for a little while, not till this afternoon. I might just schedule it anyway. So it's got a couple of different things on it. It's got the voice repeater, it's got the imaging scanner, so that's 145 megahertz. SSTV is slow scan TV. Could give that a go, actually. That looks kind of fun. I'll try that one. Schedule that observation. See what happens there. Typically, though, you can start with the FM repeater. That's the one that I've used in the past and had lots of luck with. But again, if you want to see what a successful observation looks like, and successful observations, click on those, and it'll give you a list of successful observations. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, so I would suggest targeting the FM repeater first, and I'll show you what a successful observation on the FM repeater looks like. There we go. That's pretty strong. So that's an FM repeater signal. So that's more like what you'd see with the sound waves, because that's the amateur radio voice repeater that is on the ISS. So if you get your amateur radio license and you get a ground station setup that can transmit as well, you could actually transmit to the International Space Station on that frequency. But you need a license to do that, an amateur radio license. You don't need a license to listen, though. So we'll go back. And let's have a look at the one that we're targeting, that we're hoping to get. And that's the SSTV. So you can see here it's got the waterfall, but it's also showing that it's got some data. Let's grab one. Ooh, that one's got 15. I bet that was a really good observation. Oh, that's not the right kind though. Let's try this one. All right, so that's got quite a strong signal there. Sometimes you get these lines as well, and those are just noise. So let's see what they picked up. Let's see what they've got in data. Oh, cool. It's just garbled, but it is a signal. It's pretty neat. All right, well, okay, so my SSTV observation of the ISS didn't work, and I think I know why, so I've scheduled another one of the FM voice repeater. But because I have my low noise amplifier connected, I need to turn the bias T power on. That's only if you have your low noise amplifier connected, as well as an antenna all securely connected. Then you type in this command here, RTL _ bias T space -B and 1. And that's going to turn it on, and you need to leave it on for the duration of the pass. So if you are looking at your low noise amplifier, you should have the LED light pointing towards your SDR, not towards the antenna side. So we'll come back and we'll see if that works. Okay, and now that pass is over. We'll see if we got it this time with our low noise amplifier turned on. See, we've got some noise. So it doesn't look like I got a signal again, but again, this is just because I'm still set up indoors. If we go outside, we'll start seeing signals on this. So yeah, next step would be to go ahead and see if you can get your setup semi-outdoors. As long as it's good weather and protected and you're being safe, then that's something that you can do. And one thing that you want to do before you shut everything down or start taking things apart is to turn the bias T power back off on your RTL SDR, and that command is RTL _ bias T space -B and 0. So don't unscrew anything while the bias T power is turned on. Always turn it off. I mean, if you shut your whole Raspberry Pi off, it shouldn't turn back on, but always just keep an eye and make sure your bias T power is off. You can also check it with a multimeter if you need to. I'm also just going to go into the database, and I just want to show you, because I can't leave without showing you the Binar entries in the database so that you can see that we're actually in there with our last few missions. So if we go into the database and we search, we go for Binar. Go away. There we are. And there we are, Binar 1, Binar 2, Binar 3, and Binar 4. So we're going to add 3 more satellites to this list next year. And Binar 5, watch this space for all of you and all of your payloads. So pretty cool. Here we are, WA's first homegrown satellite. You can see when it was launched, when it was deployed from the International Space Station, and when it decayed and re-entered. So this is pretty neat. I'll upload another video in the next couple of weeks showing you, or if I can show you in person, on how to actually set up the Stellarium app to use it to track whatever satellite it is that you're targeting in your scheduled observation. You're going to get an app on a tablet or a phone that can load that in and then show you where it is in the sky in real time, because you won't be able to see it with your eyes. And then you'll be able to aim your antenna. So you probably work in pairs, someone holding the tablet for now and someone pointing the antenna. And then you can try and actually target those satellites and really start getting some successful observations. So that's it. Have fun with it, and have a great term break. And then next term we will be building those DIY handheld Yagi antennas with the measuring tapes that Rayan Atif, who's joined us to take over for Will while he's away overseas, he actually designed those during his internship. So we'll be doing that, and it'll be lots of fun. And then keep working on, if anything's outstanding on your payloads, software, questions, just keep going. And great work, and we'll talk to you all soon.